Hey, it's Lynn, and in today's video, I want to dissect Taylor Swift's The Black Dog from the Tortured Poets Department, the Anthology. What draws me to this song in particular isn't just the lyrics, though that's worth spending some time on as well, but I want to also recognize Swift's vocal choices on this number, because this is a song whose central phrase is delivered two completely different ways across its runtime, which delivers interpretive work as much as anything that's actually written down. So let's move through it the way that the song itself unfolds and pay close attention to how it sounds, not just what it says. The song opens on a small, almost mundane piece of modern betrayal. The narrator notices that an ex-partner has accidentally left his location sharing turned on and watches in real time as his phone icon walks into a bar called the Black Dog. This is a distinctly contemporary device: surveillance without stalking, intimacy without consent, grief mediated entirely through a phone screen, and it updates the genre's older tools of longing, letters left unset, and objects kept as keepsakes for an age in which heartbreak arrives instead as a small dot moving across a map. The bar's name does immediate double duty as the song's central symbol as well. On its surface, it's a real specific London pub, but layered underneath with older folkloric resonance since a black dog has long served in British folklore and in figures like Churchill's own description of his depression as an omen of doom or a shorthand for a haunting presence that won't leave. The narrator isn't just watching an ex enter a building. She's watching him walk directly into a symbol of the exact psychological darkness she's still trying to climb out of herself. The pre-chorus that follows is brief and almost stunned, built around simple, repeated disbelief. The narrator insisting that she doesn't understand something without yet specifying what. That withholding is deliberate. It delays the song's central accusation just long enough to let tension accumulate before the chorus arrives to release it. And it is in that first chorus where the song's signature device appears for the very first time. The narrator imagines her ex hearing a specific old song play in the bar, one that clearly belonged to their relationship, dismissing his new companion as too young to recognize it, still transparently attached to a memory he claims to have moved past. The chorus closes on the song's title phrase, and this is where the vocal performance becomes as important as the lyric itself. The line, "Old habits die screaming," arrives at the end of a musical build that has been specifically described as escalating into something closer to a shout than a sung note, the production swelling underneath it before dropping away almost immediately after. In other words, the very first time the phrase is delivered, not merely stated. The song enacts its own title in real time rather than simply describing the sentiment from a very safe distance. The second verse shifts from surveillance back into interior reflection, and it's here that the song introduces one of its sharper psychological observations. The narrator recalls being told she needed someone braver, only to watch her ex perform that very bravery himself, convincingly enough that she came to believe that it was real. This is a compact but precise description of a particular kind of manipulation in which a partner diagnoses a deficiency in you and then stages the cure themselves, and it reframes the earlier surveillance imagery retroactively. This isn't simply heartbreak over lost affection. It's heartbreak over having been shaped by someone who wasn't being honest about who he was. The second chorus then escalates that reflection into the song's most viscerally physical image, a memory of standing in a shower, shaking, soaked, asking whether the pain inflicted on her was close to hatred or to a kind of ritual hazing, and extending that hazing metaphor into the specific language of fraternity pledging, a devastatingly precise way to describe loyalty extracted through repeated small cruelties rather than freely given. That extended metaphor recasts the entire relationship as an initiation ritual, one she completed, one that she still disturbingly says she'd stand by. And once again, the chorus closes on the same phrase, old habits die screaming, delivered with that same dynamic surge, screamed, then allowed to fall away, a pattern now established as the song's core structural heartbeat. The bridge that follows pivots into a different register entirely, introducing an extended addiction metaphor. Weeks of distance from the relationship described in terms of breathing clean air, and yet still missing the toxin that air replaced. This is one of the more ambitious moves in the song because it openly acknowledges something many breakup songs avoid, that recovery and longing aren't mutually exclusive, that a person can know with total clarity that something was harmful and still miss it anyway. The bridge escalates further into fantasies of erasure, selling the house, burning the clothes, hiring someone to perform an exorcism, each image more drastic than the last, building toward a genuinely desperate hope that whatever pain she voices, however loudly, might actually be heard on the other end. That desperation sets up the song's final chorus, which repeats its central image almost verbatim, with one small, carefully placed revision. Where the first chorus described the relationship as intertwined in the magic fabric of their shared dreaming, the final chorus swaps magic for tragic. It's a small edit, easy to miss, but it functions as the song's quiet thesis statement in miniature. The same memory reframed by hindsight without ever needing to change the surrounding language. This is the same kind of single word revision on repetition technique that Swift has used elsewhere in her catalog, and it does a lot of interpretive work in very little space. Nostalgia curdling into grief without requiring a single new sentence to explain the shift. The final chorus also delivers a reversal at last. Rather than only asking why he doesn't miss her, the narrator finally imagines him leaving the bar defeated, metaphorically retreating with his tail between his legs. And then comes the song's true closing moment, its outro, which is where the vocal arc this entire song has been building finally resolves. Old habits die screaming returns one last time, but instead of the explosive sung shout delivery that closed both earlier choruses, it arrives quiet, almost hushed, nearly spoken or even whispered rather than belted. That contrast is, I'd argue, the single most important interpretive detail in the entire track. A song whose central phrase is literally about screaming ends by refusing to scream it at all. The rage that detonated twice in the chorus has, by the song's final seconds, exhausted itself into something closer to resignation, not because the pain has resolved, but because she's simply run out of volume to give it. The word screaming is left standing there, spoken almost gently, which is a striking piece of vocal irony. The performance actively contradicts the semantic content of its own lyric, and that contradiction is the emotional argument of the entire song. It's worth noting, too, that this track was originally titled in Swift's own early phone memo draft simply as Old Habits Die Screaming before being renamed after its central setting, which suggests that this shouted to whispered arc wasn't an incidental production choice, but very likely the emotional core the song was built around from its earliest draft onward. Taken as a whole, The Black Dog works because its structure mirrors an entirely recognizable emotional trajectory. The shock of surveillance, the slow reopening of older wounds, the eruption of anger loud enough to startle even the person feeling it, and finally, the quiet that comes not from healing, but from depletion. It's a song about watching someone move on without you in real time, rendered through modern technology, folkloric symbolism, and an addiction metaphor. But its most enduring device might simply be the space between how loudly its title is first delivered and how softly it's finally allowed to leave the room. And that's it. That concludes today's dissection of Taylor Swift's The Black Dog. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think of this song and of this general dissection. I would love to hear from you down in the comment section below, and I'd love to interact with you. As always, thank you so much for watching. You are awesome. Stay awesome, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!